Alright, so I messed with a bunch of things trying to figure this out, and I ranged from the dollar foam, cut it out on the bottom, attached it to cardboard. These still didn't work. These are the best runners for it to happen. Now this is double corrugated cardboard with the cardstock around it to hide the corrugation. This is my favorite, although this will take a considerable more amount of work, and I could have done it a little bit thinner. However, this is solid hot glue. So it's got really nice weight, it stays in place, easy to stack. And this is my standard foam. Now this works really well, and it's super efficient, super quick to produce. However, the only thing I didn't like about it for this type of gaming is it's super light. Super light. If I could maybe attach a washer, like just kind of melt this out some, put a washer in there for weight, I would go with this route. However, trying to keep it where everybody could build and do this, no matter what material you use, everybody has cardboard available to them. So I decided to go with the cardboard. And as I was doing this, I filled this inside corrugation with hot glue. So these have considerable weight to them. They're not just, standard, cardboard. So these actually have a pretty good heft to them. And you can see, excuse me, that I put a bead of hot glue all the way around and then put it on wax paper. That way it flushed out. That way it smashes out even. And what this does is now it allows me to stack. This is also raised. This is hot glue on top for texture. And this allows me to stack them on top of each other and them, not move as easy. So, so this is the route I decided to go with for this tutorial purpose. I think I'm still going to address these two just to flesh them out a little better later on. However, I'm going to show you how to do it with double corrugated cardboard and cardstock. So that being said, I already have these two pieces done. So get your double corrugated cardboard, and when you're doing this, we're going to use a honeycomb pattern. I don't know if you can see that. I'm sorry, the light. The honeycomb pattern, because this just fits together the most generic from my research. That this will allow you to build your boards as easily as possible. And then you could just use the smaller ones to fill those gaps if you need them filled. So, that being said, make sure your double corrugated cardboard is not crushed at one end. If it's crushed, it's going to give you really bad cuts, uneven tiles that butt up against each other, and that's not what you want. So, while this could get me, single cuts out of this side, and I could just ignore this crush side. For our honeycomb pattern, you're not going to be able to, if I'd have used that, this side would have been crushed and that side would have been thick. So it gave us really weird matchups. So we're just going to make sure we start with an even cut corrugated, double corrugated. And we're just going to put this down on our board. Now, when we're tracing this out, we don't want this to move at all. We want it to stay as stationary as possible. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use these thumbtacks, okay? And the best way to do this is I'm going to mark it in the middle. This is where we know the inside hex is, and with me putting these tacks in the dead center of that line, it tells me my inside hex. After I cut this outside piece in, I know exactly where my inside hex is, because, you know, basically we're just going to connect the dots. Does that make sense? Okay, so we have our... Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to trace out our hex onto the corrugation, to the cardboard. As it says, make sure you don't push down on the razor. Let the knife do all the work. You don't want to accidentally crush one corner of your cardboard and it just kind of leave it uneven or not match up with the tile next to it. So again, just let the razor do all the work. Now we're going to go back and we're going to connect the lines, and it's kind of like a snowflake, if that's how you want to look at it. And the center one should be perfectly even as the rest. We're going to go back and cut out some 1/4 inch cardstock. And I'm using that popsicle stick just to make sure it's all nice and flat and flush and I'm getting in those corners. At this point, you always want to end and start in the corner of a tile. And then we're going to send our utility knife out as far as it'll go and just shave off any little pieces of that cardstock that stood above. And then once that's finished, we're going to take our hot glue gun and apply our little texture. Now I'm just laying down this hot glue in just random patterns, but I'm staying away from the edges because our tiles, our single tiles that we built, have that little bead of hot glue that goes around them that helps kind of cut and stay in place. So avoid your edges if possible. Now, if you're not a student of the Y-lock way, here is an alternate. And basically, instead of the cardstock, we're just filling in with hot glue, and I'm just using that hot metal piece of, like the tip of that hot glue, just to flush and melt those edges nice and flush. After this was all said and done, I kind of actually liked that method better because it gave it more of a muddy, rocky appearance and less clean, and it just kind of made the tiles sit together better. So what you see me doing now is we're using I went back and I cut every little hex out with a razor, and I just broke the surface. I didn't go all the way down, I didn't cut through the second corrugation, I just broke the surface. And these paintbrushes actually have a bevel on them, and I'm using that bevel just to kind of push down and make sure I'm separating those tiles. So now I have, you know, 7 clear distinct hexes. We're going to cover this with glue. This isn't a 50-50 wash. This is straight Elmer's glue. However, the paintbrush I'm going to use is wet. Okay, so I'm going to use what water is in that brush to spread this glue, and I want it really rigid. I want it really heavy, you know, because I want those angles of that hex to remain that way. Now, if you are a student of Y-lock, and good for you if you are, we're going to go back and apply the hot glue on the back pieces, just following the cardstock from the bottom. If you have any low spots, you could fill those in with hot glue, and then place this face down on your parchment paper and put a weight on it so it kind of smashes out. And finally, through this drying process, you see those over on the left shaking. I have my fan on. But anyway, so on the surface it might be dry, but underneath it's still full of water and glue. So as it's drying, every 5 minutes or so, just go back and readdress your lines. You want to make sure that you're beveling your grid back down to where you made the cuts. You know, just because, you know, sometimes that glue and that water will flatten things back out, and you just don't want your tiles, all that work, just to, you know, step away from it and then you come back and it's flat. However, it's not a big deal. So This is the 4 tiles I did. That was one that I painted, started painting just my test run. Here they all are done. We're going to step away and we're going to paint them. Now, I didn't record the process of me painting because I am not the person to teach you. As you could tell, I am not the best painter. However, that's okay. You're here to learn how to build them, not how to paint them. So here they are. I did two sets stone, 2 sets mud. My accent, my little singles out are mud as well. And that's just, you could play with however you throw yours together, but it was pretty neat. It's pretty fun. So I think I'm gonna make a lot of these just to have. I kind of like them. I've never played Heroscapes or any of those type of games, that use the stackable terrain like this. However, it was a blast, and it kind of makes me want to play some of those games. So again, everyone, thank you all for watching. Please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you again next craft.